Let's get the text sent. Just call, what's his name? Jared. Have Jared send it. tap again and start.
Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy.
Yeah, I'm just a little
I want to
bit
talk
safe.
to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters.
Yes, no, up. I mean,
We can have grace and humility in how we
This is
interact
a
with other
issue.
people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you. And nobody talked about what's really happening.
And let's have conversations about what truth is.
And then when I finish talking about this, you can go. So welcome back this Friday. We got it seems like a heavy news day. You know, we can't run away from what's happening with the Durham reports and all the information coming out about Hillary Clinton and frankly most of the left and the right. Because as it turns out, there's more people that knew that were on the Republican side. You know, there's rumblings that Mike Pompeo was intimately involved in the election coup in 2020, and there's more information that's coming out of the ODNI, the Office of Director of National Intelligence, that would lead you to believe that just maybe we're going to get to the bottom of it and we're going to have justice. People are going to go to prison. Wouldn't it be nice if somebody actually went to prison for bad behavior? And we do know we're in the devil's playground. But why is it that everywhere we turn, yesterday was a kind of a tough day for me. You find out you have to pay $90,761. I think that was the amount for a case that you're not even a party to, because you won't give up people that gave you information that told you about Dominion voting systems and a specific person that said that Trump's not going to win, and he didn't win. And it turns out we are left with all of this evidence in every state of systems, all that lead back to ES&S and Smartmatic and Dominion voting systems and the foreign interference in the election software and all the things we found out about these companies. But this guy who is a radical, he's not guilty, and I'm the bad guy. So, you know, yesterday was tough because I had to come to grips with the fact that the devil won again, at least this small battle. But we live to see another day. I think I'm more disgusted by the fact that the left and the right is almost the same. And then you have some really good players in this, but it's hard to see who they are, other than President Trump. But then the left uses the constant use of these tactics of, you know, misinformation and disinformation and conspiracy theorists and all this nonsense that we seem to have to put up with. So, but we're going to talk really quickly, and then we'll bring our guests on. We have two guests today. The two guests that we have, you can go up on the thing real quick so I can see. We have two guests. The first guest is going to be William Ramsey. He's going to be joining us. Let me just tell you a little bit about him. He is an attorney, author, and researcher. Now, this is interesting. I'm not going to hold it against him, but he graduated from the University of California, Berkeley. Cal Berkeley, the same place that Eric Coomer graduated from, only he came out the other side as a man of reason. And I was just reading some of the stuff on his books, but he's written multiple books. He got his JD and is a part of the State Bar of California. He has written Prophet of Evil, Abomination. Can you move that over a little bit? Children of the Beast, Global Death Cult, and the Smiley Face Killers. William Ramsey has also made 5 documentaries: Occult Hollywood, Prophet of Evil, Smiley Face Killers, Volume 1 and 2, and Children of the Beast. So before I bring him on, because we're going to talk about Epstein, we're going to talk about the Knights of Malta and the Pilgrims Society. I'm going to talk about some stuff that leads us down that path of, are we dealing with the same sort of cult behavior in our government? And we've heard of Ruby Ridge. We've heard of these occults that they've talked about. I don't think there's a better person to talk to about that than to look at the similarities between how our government is being run and that of organized crime and or cult behavior, where they feel like they have to protect this little group of people. But before that, let's talk quickly about what's happening in Georgia. If we can go to the top of this really quick, I really, really, really want to cover this. The Georgia State Board of votes to seek assistance of the DOJ to bring any action necessary to obtain the voting records of Fulton County from the corrupt 2020 election. Just so you guys know, they have violated the subpoena. Fulton County has refused to turn over the results in defiance of a subpoena because we know what it will show. So let's go ahead and quickly play cut 1.
Whereas the board has heard complaints of potential violations of both Georgia and federal election law over the last few years, and the investigation of some complaints, including SEB 2023-025, are still incomplete with respect to basic documents required by law to be maintained, despite the extensive efforts of the board to exhaust all remedies available to it, including the lack of a response to a subpoena issued by the board issued to Fulton County. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the board calls on the assistance of the Secretary of State to assist it as fully as possible, and suggests that the Secretary of State and the Attorney General seek the assistance of appropriate local authorities or federal authorities, including the Department of Justice, to take any action necessary to bring a prompt resolution of these issues, including obtaining all necessary voting records and documents.
During discussion on this resolution?
So that's the Georgia Board of Elections. And here is Chairman John Fervier adamantly opposing trying to get Fulton County to finally turn over the 2020 election records. By the way, if you have nothing to hide, then why are you hiding them? And we know that Fulton County was run by this company called Dominion Voting Systems that was headed by a man named Eric Coomer of Dominion Voting Systems, the same guy that seems to be doing work for the election systems these days. Let's go and play cut 2.
I am adamantly opposed to this resolution for a number of reasons. Number one, SEB 2023-025 has been adjudicated by this board previously, and the resolution was achieved in that, and therefore it shouldn't be mentioned in this. Number two is my understanding, and I hope I got this correct, is that Fulton County filed a motion to quash the subpoenas that were issued at 5:00 on election day without the knowledge of myself, and it was reported by our former executive director that the reason they did not tell me about it is because I was an obstructionist or something to that matter, and therefore I was not aware that those subpoenas were being issued at 5:00 on election day to Fulton County's headquarters. That be so, Fulton County did respond to it with a motion to quash. It's currently in litigation. This board has not had an opportunity yet to discuss that litigation, ongoing litigation with the Attorney General, but it is a matter that is being litigated. And like I said, I oppose this on a number of reasons and will not support this. So,
to be clear, that lawsuit was not approved by the Fulton County Board of Commissioners.
So they're fighting each other. So let's not waste any more time. I just want you to know that there are people that are within our government that can be bought for less than a couple of pennies. They can be bought in order to cover up the crimes that were committed by other people to steal the voice of the people. And if you think I care about an election, I don't. If you even think I care about the person that's put in office, I don't care about that either. What I care about is the fact that if you don't have a voice and if you don't have free and fair elections, you are in fact a slave. And if you don't want to be a slave, then you have to stand up to what these people have done. And they should not be above the law. I heard about another case today. We'll talk about that next week. About another man that was fired from his job as a dean of students. All for what? I'm going to tell you what he was fired for. He was fired because he said, when he was asked, how can you describe your whiteness? He goes, I'm an American. What are you talking about? And for that, he was fired after being an educator for many, many years. So with that says, let's get to our guest. He did? Well, that's interesting. Go up a little bit. Maybe you didn't like the Cal Berkeley. Oh. All right, we'll be right back. We're going to take a commercial break. We'll be right back. In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act.
As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage.
We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle.
My first time here shooting at the shooting range.
How's it going? It's also my first time, and I'm really excited.
It's also my first time here, first time shooting a gun.
My day off of work, and they were like, hey, want to shoot some guns? That was awesome. The revolver is crazy. I will definitely come again.
Yeah, it was awesome. Really cool experience.
100% bringing my friends here another time.
I like to come shoot because I get to spend time with my family. Same for me. I love spending time with my family. It's something to do.
It's a lot of fun shooting.
When I first moved back into town, the first place I came was DCF Guns, and I signed up for a membership right away.
I got into shooting because of self-defense. I would encourage all women to be ready and to feel comfortable handling a handgun.
This was my first time ever shooting at DCF West. It felt amazing. I shot an AR-15 and it was amazing. It was powerful and I loved it.
I'm here today as a part of a group of women that support one another in continuing to practice and refine our knowledge.
Not only self-protection of ourselves, but protection of our loved ones as well.
I have fun and I get to meet with other ladies.
You should always be prepared to defend yourself.
And I love coming to DCF Guns West to shoot. I come with my family. It's a nice, clean, friendly range. Here I feel safe. I feel like the people to my left and my right are also really cognizant of their range etiquette. That's why I come to DCF Guns West.
Come join the DCF family today, where we keep the range hot and the deals hotter.
Gabe! Gabe! Dude, Gabe, something's in the dumpster.
Whoa, what is that for?
Something's in the dumpster, man.
Well, let's use the burner. We don't want to wake the neighbors. Freeze! Stop resisting!
Stop resisting!
If you're looking for a less than lethal option for self-defense or keeping pests out of your dumpster, then check out Byrna at DCF Guns. Visit us at our 3 locations in Castle Rock or Colorado Springs, or visit us online at dcfguns.com.
Come join the DCF family today, where we keep the range hot and the deals hotter. All right, so I don't actually know what happened to the guest. So we will find out. We're going to get past that for a minute and move to our second guest, which will be on here in a second. And we're going to talk about, and let me just tell you about this guest. He's a private contractor and author. He is deployed by none other than Blackwater. In the early days of the Iraq War, he pulls no punches in calling out the incompetence of both the U.S. military and the Department of State during the collapse of Iraq. You can decide if the insertion of private contractor in Iraq assisted or detracted from the war efforts, and if it cost in blood and treasure were worth the carnage. I'm going to really like this guy. His name is Morgan Lerette. Lerette has recently begun speaking out about the PMC friends being paid to escort buses full of children from the border up to random towns in the middle of America and hand off kids to strangers. So we're gonna go through. He does have a book that's called Guns, Girls, and Greed. And so we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So he'll be joining us here in a minute. But let's talk a little bit about what's happening before that. Let me just tell you guys this. I think I upset. Is he back on, the guest? Okay. So I think I upset the guest because I said that he was from the same place that Eric Coomer was from. So I apologize. I didn't I meant no disrespect from that. I believe that University of California used to turn out some really good people. I don't agree that that's the case with this particular individual. But there is a ton coming out right now. And if we just, can you get past this and just get to D? Is it possible? We're trying out a new, oh, that's it. No D. Give me some comments. Can we have those or no? The benefits of going live. Oh, there it is. I guess I shouldn't insult somebody who's coming on the show. You'd probably start there. Okay. What question do you want me to ask? Can you move that over? Okay. I can't see it. I just see me. With the comments? Can everyone hear you, or am I just talking to myself and they think? Okay. You guys can't hear what's happening in my ear, but there we go. All right. So let's just go through this. Joe got the job. Hold on. Somebody, did Joe get a job at Domino's Pizza? That is the Folds of Honor. So this is an organization that basically goes for military personnel when they die, they show up and they present a flag to the family of the person that passed away that served our country. So it's an organization. They gave me this nice thing. It is not a pizza deal. Wait, Jeff, did he call me fat? Hold on a second. I got to go down here a little bit. Remember, did he call me fat? Where is it? I saw it. He called me fat. Where is it? Joe Altman is wearing red to hide the seepage. I saw it. He better not have erased it. Jeff, did you call me fat? Remember, Ben Behizzi says Joe Altman is fat. LO, not fat, just thick. Yeah, I am not fat. I am a big boy. I'm not fat. Okay, so I misunderstood you. You didn't call me fat. This will go down as the strangest show that I think I've done thus far. What do you want me to talk about? Ask me a question. It's been a while since we've been here. Jack update. He lifts his head during tummy time. He's a strong little dude. My boy. Oh, he's the baby. Congratulations. Where's Apollo when you need him? That's a good question. Where is he? He was supposed to be here today, by the way. I think I missed him when he came through. Apollo is on sabbatical with his family. He did do a show, by the way, if you want to go check it out. He did a show with for Tina Peters, her show. Tina Peters as an update of what's going on with Tina Peters. Ali, yes, I think he got upset over my reference to Coomer being a Berkeley guy. I guess that's a tough reference to be put up against. What was the other question? Was there a question on the show going forward? So the show going forward, Matt will have his own show. I will do my own show. I will basically do guests. I've got someone that is joining the company. His name is Patrick. He will come in and do some things. He has a fascinating history. I think you'll enjoy having him kind of pipe in every now and then. Yeah, we're just going to wait for the guest to get here. And I wish I could tell you that I've been checking the news today, but I haven't because I've been in and out of dealing with doctors. So we should probably talk about that maybe. Or should we talk about the fact that I got a $90,000 bill that I have to pay? Okay, let's not talk about that. All right, let's look at what I put up on my socials this morning. We can talk about that before they get here. There's a thing that was put out, and this just shows you kind of what's happening in Washington. I thought it was an interesting take. And this was Kyle Cheney put this out. Breaking DC Bar, a professional responsibility recommends that Jeff Clark be disbarred. And Sean Davis kind of comes back and says, Kevin Kleinsmith is a convicted felon who fabricated evidence as an FBI lawyer so the FBI could fraudulently obtain an illegal spy warrant against Carter Page. The DC Bar restored his bar license after he was convicted. Jeff Clark has been convicted of nothing. These people are criminals. So, and let me just read you a part of what they said in the bar. Yesterday, I was just trying to figure out what was going on with this case out of Colorado that I'm not allowed to talk about, that nobody is actually covering. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen, and it involves the Colorado courts. It doesn't just involve the Colorado courts. It involves the Colorado courts and $15 million in bribes. Now, the AUSA, so the Assistant U.S. Attorney for the DOJ in Colorado, is married to one of the Colorado Supreme Court justices. Okay. And this particular case that is, or the situation, sorry, not this case, but the situation that arises from going all the way back to 2019 and 2020 when the chief judge of Colorado was basically paid a $2.3 million bribe to someone to cover up sexual misconduct by the chief judge and other justices. It's like a whole thing that was happening in the court. And it's the equivalent of an orgy, basically. In other words, everyone is just responsible. This is why I asked the question of whether or not are we too far past the point where we can have justice? Like, is there a way that people could be held responsible because there's so many bad people? Like, if you want to look at the devil's playground, our entire government is infested with demons that literally can smile at you while they do an immense amount of harm. And so this deal dating back to 2019, 2020, paying a bribe, massive. Like, if you would have committed any of these crimes, if you would have done these things, you would be in jail for 7, 8, 10 years. Instead, the chief judge out of Colorado was allowed to just retire and go on and play golf and live his life. Well, it turns out that this behavior involves Phil Weiser, who's really kind of the ringleader of all this in the AG's office, and that you've seen this thing happen where inside of government or inside of things that are nefarious, the husband and the wife don't take each other's names. So they have different last names, so you can't tell that they're actually married. Then they go out there and they work for different organizations and they operate as basically organized criminals, right? Where they pass over information, they do things that are unethical. We saw this happen in large part in 2020. If you just go back to looking at some of the people that are in public office and what positions they had, even Weiner, right? Being connected to Hillary Clinton's sidekick. That's what I'm talking about, Jeff. How do we restore the DOJ? So let me just kind of put a little pin in this. So there's hearings that are happening at the Colorado legislature about some of the crimes that were committed by the judiciary, and it doesn't just involve that $2.3 million. It's actually in excess of $15 million. It involves the governor. It involves the attorney general. It involves the secretary of state. It involves the sorry to say it, the DOJ, who are currently trying to not pay attention to this case. Like no one's listening. Like if you want to see a gift wrapped case that you could put in front of the DOJ and say, you can take down a big significant part of the criminal enterprise in Colorado that includes Governor Polis, AG Phil Weiser, Jenna Griswold. You could do it. Here it is. Here's a gift wrap for you with witnesses, with everyone, and nothing yet. And some of the people that are involved in this, much like the people that were involved in things during COVID and involved with Antifa, they're afraid to come forward. There are more people that are disenfranchised with the whole Antifa deal and Black Lives Matter that I've had conversation with. They're like, Joe, it's not what they said they were. They're basically, it's a money laundering event that just favored a few people. So they're all afraid to come forward. What's just mentioned in passing. Joe, is there anyone working in the government that isn't corrupt? Don't know how big hell is, but when God gets done with corruption in this government, he's going to have to make hell bigger. So let's talk about how the good people, bad people, and then I'll come back to the government part. If you're a bad person, do you surround yourself with good people or bad people? Bad people. So if you're a bad person that gets into a position of trust and authority, you're looking for other bad people that you can also promote to be around you. And that way you can protect yourself from anyone saying anything bad about you, right? Because then you basically have those hired henchmen. So then who do those bad people hire? Other bad people. And pretty soon you start looking at the person that got to that position. It only takes one who gets promoted up to a bigger position. And then what does that person do? Again, builds an ethos and builds a ring, and then starts taking over every one of those positions. And then that moves up one more layer. And then all of a sudden you have the president of the United States, AKA Joe Biden, in a position of trust and authority with an auto pin. And now the biddings of the people around you that you had to protect you are now making your legacy look as terrible as you possibly could make it. So the answer is, are there anyone working in the government that's not corrupt? The answer is yes. There sure are. There are plenty of them that aren't corrupt. But I would venture to say there are none in the government that didn't have to do something corrupt in order to get to that position. It's like an initiation into a gang. How are you going to get into the gang if you don't actually play ball? Now, whether you just move the line conveniently a little bit in order to commit a crime, or you just turn your back, turn your head, and act like you haven't seen anything, the outcome is the same. What is happening in the government is an occult. It is organized crime. And President Trump, and you'll have the left that say, "Oh, this is what's happening." You have people online that are saying this is what happened. But the reality of it is that a vast majority of the people that are in positions of trust and authority in our government, because a vast majority of our government is unelected, a vast majority of those people are still in those positions of power and authority. And the reason being is because President Trump still has people around him. And in Washington, D.C., it's all who you know, not what you know. And character can be handled behind a smile. Just a smile. Just, hey, I'm a nice guy. I'm a good guy. Now, their behaviors weren't that way, but they were the right pedigree. So we're going to put them in those positions, and then you wonder why things stay broken. Well, they stay broken because in order to break the cancer that you have to, in large part, do what Doge just did. And if Doge isn't willing to do it, or Doge did it, and it didn't result in anything, there's been no measurable change in what happened with Doge today versus yesterday in the last 7 months. I think one of the frustrations that President Trump has is that he can see what they're doing. He's smart enough to understand that the Fed chair is not moving interest rates because he wants to see a collapse. And we know that you can't put pressure on both sides of the economy and will it to be successful if you don't have any relief for the very people who make that economy go around. In other words, we have an engine, which is our country, and it is run in large part with no oil. There's no oil in the machine. And it's drying up. Now, at the same time, you have record highs on the NASDAQ and record highs on and stuff that doesn't make sense, like precious metals. Some precious metals are suppressing. You see gold going down. You have silver going down. Perfect time to buy. I've decided I'm going to put more of my IRA into that just because I can't understand what they're doing with currencies. We have inflationary figures which are really low. And the reason why they're really low is nobody's spending any money. Jeff said, I always looked for good people to corrupt. Then Jesus saved me. Now I look for bad people to save. Now, you got a lot of saving to do, Jeff. You can start at the government. Just go stand in front of one of the government buildings. But if we look at this from the perspective of if we just look at what we're dealing with right now, there is an element that's saying, and that's why I really wanted to have this conversation with our first guest, talking about Epstein, talking about some of the things that were happening with, the devil, so to speak. Because what we're dealing with right now in our government is a orchestrated collapse. Now, I'm not being a naysayer and saying that, things aren't good and we have tariffs that are coming in from other countries. Ultimately, that does result in them having to cut their margins on their side from a product side or build it less expensive. They have to build it less expensive. The money has to come from somewhere. When you pay a tariff, if it doesn't get passed on, no matter what you say, it either comes out of margins on your side, which they have an acceptable margin erosion and it works for them and it doesn't cost us any more money. Great. That's not typically what happens. Long term, short term, that could be what happens. But sooner or later, you start seeing small incremental price increases to cover those tariffs. Now, you can only do it for a certain period of time to get people ingratiated for spending that before that does ultimately affect the consumer. But at the same time, one of the big things that does affect consumer pricing is interest rates. And the Fed chair came out yesterday and said, we're not going to lower interest rates. But any moron that understands inflationary figures and the indexes that affect, consumer confidence and how people spend money and, discretionary income that's available and debt load for people, debt loads are going up. Discretionary spending is going down. Tax burdens are going up because the federal government's not doing it, but the state is stepping right in and doubling property tax in nearly half the states that are out there. And it's become almost impossible to live. And it just gets more and more thirsty. They're passing more and more legislative action. Every road that you drive on now is a tollway. And we're put in this unique position where something has got to break. Now, at the same time all of this is happening, you have massive amounts of corruption in government. They are not affected by this. They gave themselves a raise last year. They gave themselves a raise the year before. We didn't see a raise. The private sector and the public sector are completely detached from each other. And you may say, well, you have Google and you have all these companies you can go work for, these bigger companies like Amazon. And I'm going to tell you that all of those companies operate as a pseudo-government agency. They are their own government up to and among themselves. They get tax breaks for every single person that they hire. They get paid money from the government. They get entitlements. If you started your own business out there and you go to look for entitlements, you get nothing. They get preferred treatment on rates. They get lower rates from each other when it goes to shipping expenses. They get lower rates when it comes to cost of efficiencies, what they pay for different programs. They get best rate available, where the rest of the public picks up all the rest. You got rid of it? That's where we're at right now as a country. So we're not going to get past, we're going to have a collapse. There's no way to get around a collapse because nobody wants to give any ground. And the Fed chair says, okay, if we lower interest rates, that will give the public the ability to have relief. People that have, adjustable mortgages now will be able to get back down into the 4s, which is a reasonable interest rate when the Fed's at 1.25 or 1.5. A reasonable rate would be 4.5. Instead, the rate that we have right now is 6 to 7%. That'll free up the ability for consumers to start spending money, to pay off debt. Interest rates will come down. Consolidations will happen. It'll give people more access to discretionary income. And you would say, well, how does all that happen? Well, everything's tied together. But the biggest problem people have, even when you go to buy a new car, the rates to buy a new car are now being subsidized by the manufacturers. And that should tell you that they had to do that in order to get people to buy the cars, because the government was unwilling to lower rates to get it into a reasonable place. So they had to go and say, look, we're going to lose money. And here's what happens. When interest rates start to, these arms go back in time, 2020, people were doing arms for 4.5%, 3.9, 3.7, but they were on arms. They're like, okay, I'm going to do an arm 5 years. It'll be the same, no problem. Those are all coming due right now. If you go on Zillow, I just want everybody to go on Zillow and go look at how many houses are in the marketplace and how long they're sitting. They're sitting. And if you look at what a house is worth today versus what it was worth a year ago, you're seeing value degradations of 4, 5, 6, 10%. We're in trouble right now. We can't even see that we're in trouble, and we're in trouble. And if you don't think they're going to use the same sort of mind virus that they used in 2020 to derail President Trump right before the election in 2026, it is coming. Mark it, put the little marker on this particular show. I'm going to tell you right now what is going to happen going into 2026. If we do not get rid of machines and mail-in ballots, we will have stolen elections in a way that you have never seen them before. All the way up and down the ticket. And right before that actually happens, somewhere in the summer of 2026 or in the winter of 2025, you're going to see an absolute collapse, and the Fed is not going to do anything about it. And it's going to say, no, we can't do anything, while tens of millions of Americans suffer. Because the system favors suffering for people in our community. That's what's going to happen. And the government's going to keep going down the path, and President Trump's going to say, hey, we're going to have to suffer a little bit in order to see some success. The problem is that let's just look at jobs for a minute. They had to upgrade the jobs report that just came out. By 90%. It was like 141,000. It went down to 14,000. And 158,000. I don't have the exact numbers. And it went down to 19,000. They had to adjust it afterwards. It's kind of like going into a newspaper and them doing the thing saying, hey, we're the safest, most secure election in U.S. history. And then 6 months later coming in and saying, oh, by the way, we didn't. It wasn't safe and secure. And, oh, yeah, by the way, Dominion voting system stole the election. And they did it for a guy named George Soros and the Rothschilds and all of these people that don't stay in the public domain, but basically they're the shot callers around the world. That's the same thing. There's no difference. We are, in essence, by this time next year, we will be facing a financial crisis equal to or greater than what happened in 2008. A catastrophic business collapse. Now, what they'll say is we predicted it, and it's all because of President Trump did tariffs. And they will find some sort of person that sits in New York City that gives you the bubble water canister, and you take the peach and it hits you on the foot, and then you tap on your head 3 times. This is how it happened. Do we have a guest on? So William is back on? All right. He wrote books. I'm sure that he's a wealth of knowledge. I could probably ask him a question about most of it, and he'd probably run right through it. So who thinks I'm wrong? By the way, do we have the ability for people to call in now still? What do you mean pay into it? What is that supposed to mean? Okay, we actually can't. No, I'm talking about people calling, like the phone calls in. Okay. So if I was predicting what's going to happen and we look at the corruption index, maybe that's the thing that we should do. Should we create a corruption index that exists and we can then figure out what's happening? You have all of these pieces on the chess table that are being moved at the same time. You have Bobby Kennedy that's moving things, getting rid of certain dyes and trying to get back to a naturalized and getting rid of junk food, including making sure that if you're on welfare, you can't use it to buy junk food. I'm surprised that we haven't had a major riot of them, protesting a Nike store over that. But you have that happening. You have the ODNI that's now releasing information, and the left is largely quiet. But what they're doing is deflecting back and saying, "Oh, you're just doing this to deflect against what's happening with Epstein." At the state level, you have people paying out $15 million like they did in Colorado and keeping Tina Peters in prison and doing crazy things in the media in order to say they're, Colorado, just so you guys know, Colorado's going into a special session, I think, in the next 18 days. And they're opening up a special session just to pass more stuff. And a lot of the things that we're dealing with in Colorado, other states are dealing with it. And once you steal 60% of the election, and you have the legislature of a state, and once you have the governorship, and once you have the attorney general, you own it all. You can appoint any judges you want. You're basically Al Capone. For lack of a better way to describe it, you're Al Capone. You have full authority over that state. You can do whatever you want to anyone you want in the state, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. And the whistleblowers that come forward, I'll just have one of the AUSAs for the DOJ be married to the Colorado Supreme Court justice, the same Colorado Supreme Court that voted to or ruled that they were going to keep President Trump off of the ballot, that was ruled a 9-0 at the Supreme Court, that's not going to hold any water. Imagine that, 9-0 against a Colorado Supreme Court where the head of that organization paid a $2.3 million bribe, and instead of going to prison, was just told to retire and given full pension. That happened in Colorado. Now imagine you times that by 100. You have a pedophile in Aurora, Colorado, that raped a 6-year-old, I believe, put on the sex registry, given 2 years in prison. Tina Peters uncovers the fraud up in Mesa County, given 9 years. 9+ years. And not only did that happen, but the Attorney General's office, that is this corrupt group that helped pay the $15 million in bribes through the judiciary in Colorado with Governor Polis and with the Secretary of State, Jenna Griswold, then takes people from the AG's office, that really bad people, sends them up to Mesa County to hang out with Dan Rubenstein, all to persecute Tina Peters specifically. And once you've actually captured the election system, because Dominion's home is in Denver, Colorado, and you're able to get away with these massive amounts of crimes, even though we said, here's the evidence, it's very clear, there's 4 reports, and instead you have a guy that sells out the people of Colorado. His name is Matt Crane, whose wife worked for Dominion for 20 years, who comes out and says, because asked by an investigator at the Colorado, an investigator that works for the Colorado Attorney General's office, to tell me how I can debunk all the stuff coming out of this report. Not, hey, is those reports valid? Are they real? No, the opposite was said, to show me, give me the, and then he gives a soup salad and then says, okay, it's all debunked because Matt Crane, whose wife worked for Dominion, who Dominion is in Colorado and stole elections everywhere across the country, they get to continue to do what they're doing. And then the more information that comes out then leads you down a path where, again, we're having a conversation about the ultimate corruption of our nation and how deep it goes. Because if you're a bad person, you put more bad people in. If you have more bad people, you have more bad people, more bad people. And it basically just metastasizes into cancer that ends up taking out the whole body of government. And here is where we are. Who's on? Okay. Yeah. What? Not going to have to pay to file. What do you mean? No, come on. What? Can people hear what you're saying? Oh my gosh. All right. Turn your mic on so people can hear what you're saying. Do you have something on it you want to put up on screen with us? All right. So just so you guys know, Austin is in the control room. And am I allowed to tell Austin? Am I allowed to tell them who you are? Okay. So Austin is dating my daughter. He's the only one I've ever liked. I can say that on here. Sorry, that's just Mikey. If you're listening, that's the truth. He just told me that the IRS is now making you pay to file your taxes. So you have to pay the IRS to file your taxes. So they tax you, take 56 cents on every dollar. And now they're going to charge you to pay taxes. They're going to charge you to file your taxes. So the file for free program is gone. All right, no, let me just go through that again. How many of you feel like you're a slave? How many of you feel you're a slave? I mean, you are a slave. You don't own your house. You don't own your cars. If you don't put your plates on your cars, you can't drive it around. They'll write you a ticket, right? If you're in, by the way, if you're in places like anywhere, and I think there was an article about a guy or a post about a guy who went to pick up his daughter, ran in real quick, didn't turn the wheels on a slope, got a ticket for $175. I think it was $175 for being unsafe. Guy walking by 2 minutes, he goes to pick up his daughter, didn't turn his wheels, $175 fine. Now, if you go 2 blocks down from where this guy picked up his daughter, or 3 blocks down, bums are up there shooting, injecting needles in their arms, doing all sorts of just let lawlessness go just unchecked. But if you're a law-abiding citizen, they get to throw the book at you anytime and whenever they want. They get to treat you as if you were a slave. Like they can take from you whatever they want, whenever they want. And you can't do anything about it. Because then we'll make sure that you get to be where they are, where they're injecting needles and taking away your livelihood. So you're a slave. You don't own a car. You don't own a house. And you'd say, yeah, I do. I paid off my house. No. Because you have this thing called property tax. I mean, how are we not pissed off about this? How have we not just stopped? Just as a country, just said, you know what? We're not doing it anymore. We're done. Nobody's going to work. Nobody's going, you know what? You want your fast food? Piss on you. Everyone just stop working and just tell the government to piss off. How have we not stopped paying taxes? How have we not put ourselves in a position where we recognize that we are absolute slaves? That judiciaries can hand out $15 million and the AG can throw a grandma, Gold Star mom in jail. And the governor can go and piddle kids before he was a governor. And we'll just sweep that under the rug. Where we have an entire group of people across our country that are able to victimize us. That a president of the United States could open the borders, let 20 million people come in, that resulted in the killing of and raping of people in our community. How is it that we have an election system that is owned by a private equity company that sits on the 40th floor in New York City, and they get to go in and say, we're going to drop $50 million in here. Here's all the people we want elected. And then when we actually get out there and talk about what they've done, you have the spawn of Satan that runs cover for Dominion voting system saying, hey, Trump's not going to win. And that guy just gets to sue everybody for things that I said, not what they said, what I said. And that is reality because you're a slave and they could do with you whatever they want. And how is it that we actually have put up with this? I mean, is this really what life has come about? And I talk about corruption in government. I talk about all the things that we deal with, and we talk about it a lot. We talk about it, but we never do anything about it. We literally had the Boston Tea Party over a 2-cent tax on tea. And these pricks now just say that, we're just going to get rid of it. If you want to file your taxes, you got to pay us to do it now. You got to pay to drive on a road. You got to pay a tax when you go get a coffee, when you go to dinner, when you go to anywhere you go, you have to pay a tax. When you go put gas in your car, you pay the government. Just to breathe. Let's say that you want to go into a park. Nope, you got to pay for that pass too. And everybody's like, well, they have to pay for it somehow. 80% of their budget is just wasted. You got people with golden fingers that could just send money with impunity to anyone that they want. They have taken more meat off the bone than they deserve. They don't deserve it. And yet we sit here and we tolerate it. Churches, you have people saying, oh, they need to lose their tax exempt status. They need to pay taxes. Churches need to pay taxes. Yeah, because weaken that. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you want to weaken that? It doesn't check. It doesn't make any sense. And no matter where we turn, every time we turn around, nothing makes sense. It does not make sense. What happened in COVID? Nobody went to jail for it. Fauci's out there, just enjoying life. He killed millions of people. Yeah. Here we go. The direct file program was a temporary Band-Aid on a broken system. Trump elimination of it paves the way for a fair tax act, which abolishes the IRS entirely and places income tax as a transparent national sales tax. It isn't about billionaire buddies. It's about dismantling a surveillance state that tracks your earnings while letting bureaucrats siphon $150 billion annually through complexity and fraud. The fair tax ends payroll deductions, audits, and hidden fees, putting power back in taxpayers' hands. Critics fear losing control of a rigged system that served DC insiders, not you. Real reform means simplicity, no IRS, no loopholes, and no more funding globalist bloat through your paychecks. I mean, let me explain something to you. Let me tell you where I'm at. You ready? I'm ready to William Wallace. I'm done. I got a case where a judge, in a case I'm not even a party to, because of a lack of competent counsel, said that the 10th Circuit says, but he didn't argue that. He should have argued it. Where I get fed an attorney that's in on it. In a case that I'm not a party to, where they want me to give up something that I don't have to give it up. Like 12 years I've run this company. 12 years. At the time, 12 years. And I don't have to give them the information. I don't have to put another human being in danger. And you know what? They can fuck off by saying that I do. I'm not going to do it. But it doesn't matter what I say. Because a judge gets to say, you have to pay their attorney's fees. I shouldn't have had to appeal to begin with. But the laws don't make a difference. See, they get to decide what laws that they get to actually put in place. They get to decide. They get to decide if you get to breathe or if you don't get to breathe. They get to decide if you get to have a house or don't get to have a house. They get to do whatever they want to anyone in this country. And you know what? Case in point, I came forward because I wanted to protect the voice of the people. I came forward because that piece of shit, Eric Coomer, literally said he was going to steal an election. That liar, that guy that lied over and over and over again, that piece of shit gets cover from the media because the private equity firm calls down Dominion and says you can't sue him because the guy knows too much about your system. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to have Eric Coomer sue him and then sue everyone around him, and then we're going to make him the pariah while this little faggot goes out and does what he does. runs into buildings, wears Satan's tattoo, talks about raping his wife, says he wants to kill police officers and kill Trump, dead presidents, supporting Antifa while standing on this high horse and saying all of a sudden he's the guy. That is what we're going to put our stuff behind. That's the horse to back. And then we're going to take the whistleblowers and the FBI, and they can piss off too, right? Because, we can't bring them back. But Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, he can use them to get into office. He can say, yeah, keep fighting for us. And we look at what President Trump had to go through. And you're like, oh, Joe, I hate it when you cuss. You know what? I already told you, I'm at that point where what does it matter? They want to get rid of the file for free tax, the IRS, because they don't think, they hear nothing. They're playing with you now. They actually think now, here's what they can do to you. Anything they want. They can stick their penis in your butt, and there's not a thing you can do about it. That's what they've gotten to. You have a guy named Fauci that killed millions of people and got away with it. You have Hillary Clinton that literally created the Russiagate deal, and she's still walking around. Now, God forbid, you walk down the street, get in your car, drive away, and you run over a bicycle. Just a bicycle. Nobody's on it. You committed a hit and run. You're subject to a year in prison and a $5,000 fine. I tell you what, as the DA, I'll let you off if you write us a check for $1,000, and then we'll say that you can. This actually happens every day. Or you get some DEI piece of shit inside of a school system that has to get everybody to play by the same rules and walks up to a teacher, this happened to, I talked about this at lunch, with the guy, and says, tell me about your whiteness and how it victimizes other people. He said, what are you talking about? He's from Washington, he's from New York City. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm an American. I drink beer. They're like, oh, you're a racist and you should be fired. And Jeff, you say that you don't live in D.C., you don't have to pay taxes, but don't believe me? Hey, listen, I just watched a friend get in huge trouble over that whole deal. I mean, just it flies in the face of just basic common sense. But you know what you got? You got a bunch of people on social media that talk to you about, hey, this is what's happening, but won't do fuck all about how you fix it. Didn't sacrifice anything, but they want you to sacrifice it. Oh, by the way, and send them $10. We have educated the shit out of ourselves. And what we haven't done is we haven't gotten to a place where the education part meets action. Like, what are we going to do about it? They actually think that you are really stupid. And the media just says a bunch of stuff. And then the same people that in high school should have gotten their ass beat, those same people walk around and say, did you hear what Joe did? Oh my gosh, did you hear what Joe did? And you buy it. You let them do what they're doing. The system works when they want it to work, and it doesn't, and it victimizes our community when they say, let them victimize them. Let's watch and grab some popcorn. Okay, I'm done with it. We have a guest. Every time we get on this show, I've gotten to that point where I'm wondering why. So where am I at? I'm at the William Wallace part of it. I'm like, let's just get it on. Let's forget it. I mean, my guest is going to freak out on me on this one. Probably not, actually. He's not. I read his bio. These pieces of shit have gotten away with things for way too long. And we have an obligation to fight against it, but we're too weak. And it's almost pathetic, actually. It's almost pathetic. People get to talk shit on the internet. And by the way, if you say anything back, like come over here and I'll hug you to death till you run out of breath, they just cancel you. Or you say, hey, listen, why don't you just come out? Here's my address. Just meet me here, right? I'll get out there in my britches. I won't have anything on me, and let's just fight it out like men. You want to, and everybody's like, oh, that's the responsible way to do it. Bro, we killed millions of people during COVID by telling you to stay inside. And then they shoved this thing down your throat and they blew up people's organs while telling them to take remdesivir that killed 100% of the people they gave it to. That's what our government did to us. You want to talk about violence? We can talk about every country that we haven't respected the sovereignty of. We're going to have a great conversation about that now with our guest. So let's just bring him in. Morgan, welcome to the show. I've already introduced you before, but I'm a little fired up. Actually, I should never be on the show by myself, ever.
I heard, I jumped in just as you said something about they can stuff a penis in your butt and you can't do anything. And I clinched. I clinched as hard as I possibly could. So. Yeah.
It's the reality though, right? I mean, and that they dare us. They're like, they dare us. Like, what are you going to do about it?
I mean, they dare us every day. And a lot of the times they do it in the shadows and wait for somebody to actually figure it out. And then they say, oh, I'm sorry. So, I mean, let's be honest here. I don't think anybody trusts the government anymore in hardly any capacity. It doesn't matter what side you're on.
Or which side doesn't matter. It's kabuki theater. We talked about Georgia and what they're doing with the election system. It's been 4 years and they still won't give up the records. Under subpoena, won't give up the records. And they're justifying the fact that they can just shit on the people. I'm beside myself because everywhere we turn, it's like, we can't, they can teach our kids about gay pride flags and cutting off penises, but God forbid we teach them about what they need to actually concentrate on and teach them about truth and dignity and ethics. Now we can't do any of that. That sounds too normal.
That's why you got to go to charter school. Thank God.
Well, now they're shutting down charter schools. You see what they did in California? Shutting down.
I didn't
Defunded
see
them.
that. That's why, look, it's your own fault if you live in California at this point. There's U-Haul trucks for a reason, guys. Come on.
But my point is that should they be able to capture things, shouldn't we fight back so fervently that somebody gets bloody? And I'm not calling for violence, but I'm calling for an end to the violence against our communities. And that's what it is. It's violence. What they're doing to us is violent. They put illegals on the street. They put drugs on the street. They put guns on the street. They legalize being able to shoot up on the middle of the street and put up a tent. I mean, I can't fathom it. It makes zero sense to me.
I mean, you're preaching to the choir here, and I'm just singing. I'm singing "God Bless America" behind you.
God bless America. I quit drinking 10 months ago. Never felt better. But now
no, I stopped 18 months ago. So, hey, welcome to the club, man. I'm glad to have you.
Absolutely. I feel a lot better as a result of it, but I've seen a lot. We're going to talk a little bit about that today, but you work for Blackwater.
I did. I was one of those guys that everybody said, oh my gosh, they're doing all this crazy stuff. And half of it's all just, what people make up in their head. So yeah. I ended up talking to a bunch of people about what I did with Blackwater, and they said, what you should do? You should write a book about that. So I did. I ended up writing Guns, Girls, and Greed about my time in Blackwater, kind of the ground perspective of what we did in Iraq, 2004, 2005. It's an absolutely spectacular book. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but if you want a ground perspective of war instead of hearing about it from the politicians and from the CEOs and all that stuff, this is definitely the book for you. What I always found funny, though, is everybody thinks they know what Blackwater did, except for the people that actually did it. And it's just not the same. I've heard everything from we were smuggling children to we were taking down stuff for the CIA to we were drinking at the pool. And only one of those is true. We were absolutely drinking at the pool.
Well, you get a chance to drink at the pool, you should drink at the pool. And yes, they had pools. They had some nice pools over in Iraq.
I mean, they had pools that probably Mar-a-Lago would be jealous of. Saddam Hussein used that oil for money program and made some of the nicest houses I've ever been to. So they spent it well. He's stimulating the economy like Joe Biden.
Yeah, it was some opulence for sure. So were you there during the chaotic fall? Were you there when Saddam Hussein was captured, or were you just after that?
No, so I got there. I was in the Air Force. I got there in 2003 during the ground offensive, which is the worst. Everybody that came after the ground offensive you guys can all just be thankful that I had to deal with that. No showers. You were in all your chemical gear because Saddam was going to gas us at any given moment. It was hot. All we had was MREs. And I don't know if you guys have ever had an MRE, but it stands for meal refusing to exit. Yeah, it is miserable. So, yeah, we started the first aerial supply route in Talil Air Base down just south of Nasiriyah. And at the time, this wasn't the social media war yet. So I had no idea what was happening. The Jessica Lynch rescue happened right where we were at. I had no idea until I got home. Like the fighting of the Marines in Nasiriyah that was captured in Generation Kill, all that stuff was happening. And I was just sitting there as an Air Force guy trying to keep people from like driving their trucks as planes were landing. Oh, the girl that landed her A-10 her engine got blown off. She landed right there. I got to watch that. And I was like, oh, that was pretty neat. And I didn't know it was actually something that the news picked up until months later. So the ground offensive was just absolutely different time. And then I started working for Blackwater in 2004 in Baghdad. And that's when it started getting crazy. That was when like the sectarian violence, we gave Iraq over to its new interim government. And then the Shias took over and the Sunnis were like, well, we don't like that. And the Sunnis said, well, we don't like you either. So they had like kill squads going through Baghdad and the Sunnis were killing the Shias. And then they created the Sunni triangle where you had Fallujah and Ramadi. I mean, it was a crazy time to be there. But I loved every second of it, and they paid the hell out of me, so I got no complaints.
Well, you get paid to do some pretty good work. I got a chance to go to Iraq. I spent 6.5 years. Did you learn Arabic at all, or did you just pick it up on the?
No, so I spoke rifle. If I point my rifle at you and I tell you to do something, you'd be shocked at how many people can translate it. Yeah,
yeah, like
move your car.
Yeah,
move your
funnel. So I spent about 6.5 years, went to 65 nations all over the Middle East and Africa, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Lebanon, Syria, Egypt, Sudan, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Ghana, DRC. I mean, literally all up and down Africa and the Middle East, Bahrain, you name it, I was there. And what I was amazed at, you were there to basically talk rifle. Right, your job was really easy. By the way, the secular violence that you saw happening was not just against America being there, but against each other. So there was literally a civil war that was happening, and nobody really described it as that back then. But there was a real fear that if one group won, the other group would be exterminated, right? And that and one thing that Saddam Hussein did really well that I think people never give credit for him is that he kept the peace. And that they removed Saddam Hussein, and they said, "Okay, we're going to remove it. We're going to bring in democracy." And all they brought in was death, destruction, and the millions of women and children that died as a result of that. So, and most of that was caused by this secular war that permeated all of Iraq and most of Afghanistan. And so when I went there, I would hear these stories, and I thought 9/11. Right? We were there, weapons of mass destruction. Right? Turns out it's all bullshit. And again, the government lied to us.
I mean, it was absolute bullshit. Don't get me wrong. I will say Saddam Hussein is kind of like my Thanos figure. Like he's a bad guy. He's kind of a dick. But at the end of the day, you see where he's coming from, where he had to rule the way that he did. Because you also had the Kurds up in the north, and the Kurds want to take the oil-rich land of Kirkuk, and they want to split that off and take a piece of Turkey so that they can create Kurdistan. So he really had three kind of warring factions that he was able to dominate to the point that they could kind of live in a pseudo harmony. And the second that we came in and we got rid of the Ba'ath Party, everybody that knew how to run a government left. Well, they didn't leave. They got kicked out. So when I was protecting people, on purpose. So when I was protecting people, I would protect people that would like work at their stock exchange because they didn't have anybody to do that. They didn't have anybody to land planes, pick up garbage, set up schedules. I mean, the entire Ba'ath Party was what ran that government, and we got rid of it and said, oh, don't worry, guys. Now you guys can go be free and you can have your democracy. But it's really hard to have democracy if you don't have people that can actually like unplug your sewage system. So Blackwater, we absolutely protected everybody, the CIA, the Department of State, you name it. But a lot of the guys were really just those boots on the ground people to say, hey, this is how you fly a plane without actually having two planes collide in the middle of the air.
Well, they lost 70% of their stock market in less than 2 months on the invasion into Iraq. 70% of the companies that were on their in-country stock exchange gone, evaporated overnight. And when they already had the graded currency, so you're talking about the banking industry there was used to launder money for most of the other Arab nations that were connected to the West, so that you knew that there was. I know way too much about Iraq specifically, at least the inner workings. So it becomes difficult to look at it and go, why were we even there to begin with? Like, why do we do this? And why is it that we haven't taken responsibility for what we did when we were there? Not Blackwater. Blackwater, you just became an excuse, right? You became yeah.
A very convenient excuse. I remember when we went into the stock market, they actually had chalkboards, and people were up there like exchanging stocks with chalk. I mean, that's how far back they went. Yeah. They went back to like 1930s horse racing.
Yeah.
So we took them from
Pink slips.
this, semi-industrialized nation to back to the 1930s and 40s. And then everybody's like, well, how come they couldn't figure it out? They have a bunch of oil. Yeah, but if you don't have people that can pump the oil and sell the oil and all the banking that goes along with the oil, what did you really expect? And that's why Blackwater existed, is because when we went in and we gave sovereignty to the Iraqi government, it became a Department of State mission. And they said, who's going to protect these Department of State guys as they go out into an active combat zone? It had never happened before. And they said, well, go hire those knuckle draggers over there. They'll help you out. I just happened to be one of the knuckle draggers. And we would take people, like we did the Regime Crimes Liaison Office, the guys that prosecuted Saddam Hussein and Chemical Ali. We went to the mass graves. We did Ministry of Oil, Ministry of Minerals, Ministry of the Interior, like all these places that didn't know how to run themselves. We were actively sending people to them to say, hey, here's how you guys can build your country. Oh, by the way, you need to do it in like the next 2 to 3 years, even though it's taken America 100 years to get to where we are.
Well, it's funny that it's funny you talk about the mass graves specifically, because the clashes, especially with the Kurds, those clashes were real. They happened long before the United States got involved in the region, and they would result in entire villages getting wiped out on both sides, right? So there'd be this kind of yin yang that would happen every couple of years. It was like a yo-yo. And Saddam Hussein, in large part, was charged with genociding entire environments that he was never a part of, right? And so that they hung him for crimes that, frankly, if you look at it on paper, they'd never exist. And I'm not saying that he was a Boy Scout, but his whole deal was keeping the peace. You can't keep the peace if you're out just killing people indiscriminately. You're going to piss a lot of people off. He didn't piss people off. He just kept everything in balance. But instead, when we went in there, we knocked off the only stabilizing unit that he had in that region. And in large part, that goes back to what happened in the early 1990s when Saddam Hussein refused to play ball when they found other precious metals. So there's so much to be said about what happened in Iraq. And actually, I'm going to read your book. You better send me a copy of it. But
I will. I'll send you a copy. You'll be like, man, this guy's sick in the head. He's great.
I love that. So talk to me more about like that defining moment. Everyone has one. I know that I have one when I was over there. And I was on the civilian side, just trying to help people stop wanting to kill each other. And so what was that moment that you had in Iraq where it became real? Like you were in the Air Force, now you're a knuckle dragger doing some knuckle dragging stuff, defending people, having to put, live rounds down range, only they're hitting people in the chest. What was the moment that it became real for you related to that experience? Like where you were like, okay, it all comes into focus. There's a focal point that happens. It happens to everyone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I have two. The first one is what you mentioned. Like the first time you actually take your selector switch and you go from safe to fire. And I was starting to put rounds down range at this red car. It's like everything slowed down. And as many troops as we had over in Iraq and Afghanistan, the number of soldiers that are actually, door kickers, or the ones that could actually fire, is pretty small. And the ones that actually fire their weapon is even smaller than that. So the first time I actually had to make that decision to say, this car is getting too close, it could be a car bomb, I need to engage it. Man, that was like the holy crap moment for me. And then shortly after that, we had a helicopter that was flying up to Tikrit. It was like April of 2005, and we had 6 Blackwater guys on it that ended up getting shot down. And that's when war got real, right? The first time you were talking to a guy the day prior, and the next day they're gone, it just got extremely real. And that's where I kind of flipped the switch, where I was like, okay, we're not doing anything good here. I am 100% here for the money. I don't give a crap about this country. I just want to get to the next day, collect my $500, get to go, and don't get sent to Baltic Avenue. So it's extremely hard to describe unless you've been over there and you're like, man, I'm never going to talk to that guy again. And I was just over having a beer with him like 36 hours ago.
Or you see a car bomb actually go off, and the carnage that follows it, right? Of not just the dead, but the wounded. It gets real.
Well, the amount of just, carnage is probably the best way to put it. Like you see it in the movies, you see what happens and you think, oh, well, that's pretty neat. And then you see it in real life and you're like, that is completely different. I remember before I got over there, John McCain was saying like, oh, all these kids are desensitized. They've been playing these video games and killing stuff. And that's why we're having problems in the United States. And then I got overseas, and the first time you see somebody die, I was like, holy shit. There's no video game on the planet that can prepare you for that. And then it really is after that, how do you react? Some people just go, holy cow, and they kind of cower at the situation. Some people just start running towards it. And that's where you start sifting out those people where you're like, okay, that's a guy I want to be around, or holy cow, let's make sure that guy doesn't come out with us ever again.
Yeah, the victimology becomes real. I had a friend that went over there that worked for a different outfit in 2008. I think it was 2008, 2009. And he was a police officer here, went to go work for it had an acronym, IGR or I. Anyways, one of the like Blackwater-esque type deals. I thought he was a pretty tough guy. First time that he saw someone get shot, he turned into a little crybaby. Sorry, because that's what happens, right? And you don't want the crybaby right next to you when bullets start flying. And so I was like, bro, you just need to come home. He goes, well, I need the money. And I'm thinking to myself, sell your body, bro. Do something else. This one doesn't fit you though.
Start an OnlyFans and sell pictures of your feet, man. No, it's funny because we had cops that would come over, and most of them are really good guys, but the way that they think is just completely different, right? They're out there trying to community police, and you're trying to like help people, and your use of force is very structured. And then you get them in there and they're like, who just shot at that car? You shouldn't do that. And you're like, oh, you're a cop, aren't you? You got to go to a different team. Yeah. We can't deal with that. They're all tender hearts.
Bye.
To their credit.
It's not so bad when they have humanity, when humanity's in play, but when it's not in play, frankly, it's who's going home tonight.
Yeah, it's a hard transition for those poor guys. So,
okay, how'd you transition back? How many years did you spend over there?
So I did 18 months with Blackwater, and I came home. This is the hardest part. This is what people don't tell you. Like the second that you get off ground, you don't get a paycheck, you don't have any benefits, you don't have anything, and all your buddies are hanging out in Iraq. So where do you want to be? You want to be in Iraq, right? With the military, you go over there as a unit, you come back as a unit. There's a catharsis in that, right? When you come back with Blackwater as a PMC, it's just you. And those were probably some of the darkest days that I had, because everything was trying to pull me back to going and being a private military contractor. Even though I didn't leave on the best of terms, there were plenty of contracts out there. I could have got picked up. I was talking to like Triple Canopy. And at some point, I just had to look myself in the mirror and say, you're either going to be a grown-up and you're going to have like a grown-up life, or you're going to keep going back to that contracting for the rest of your life until you die. And finally, I was like, I guess I just better start going to college. So for me, that transition was probably easier because I set that next goal. Hey, I'm going to get my bachelor's degree. And then I joined the Army ROTC. And I knew I was going to go active duty Army after that. Like, but a lot of people get stuck in that space where they don't feel like they belong. And I mean, I hate to admit it, but the suicide rate for former private military contractors, specifically Blackwater, is exponentially higher than any of the military rates because there is no support system. There is no VA. There's nobody patting you on the back telling you that you were a hero because you went overseas. It is a lonely life, and it's shocking how many people cannot transition back to it.
Yeah, I would actually agree with that in a lot of ways. But married?
I mean, I was at the time, but that didn't last long. That's the one thing people say. What happens after you get out of contracting? I say you get divorced. So you get divorced, and then you get to give half of your shit to somebody that you hate. So
do you have kids?
No, I mean, no, I didn't. It all worked out for me in the long run. I joined the Army. I met an amazing woman. I got 2 amazing kids. So, they say you got to find the first one to get that out of the way so you can find the one you actually like. Yeah. So muscle memory kicks in. I don't know, but yeah, thank God it worked out the way that it did. But at the time it was a dark spot.
Yeah, and most people understand those dark spots for themselves, but you try to articulate a dark spot that you're in, given how much knowledge you get from going overseas. I believe everyone should go overseas to do something, like go to another country, just not Mexico and not Canada. That's not real life. But go overseas and actually see how people live. It'll change your perspective quite a bit. Hopefully you don't get shot at, but if you do, it's even better.
It only takes one bout with dysentery for you to be like, oh, I do miss the United States. And I miss Imodium AD.
I had malaria 3 times.
Oh, jeez.
It was terrible. Oh. and then the parasites. Oh, man. Did you ever get parasites?
We called them the Baghdad bug. And it was just like one of those things where it would take out half the people. And the people that it didn't take out, I don't know what they were eating, if they were just eating out of trash cans before they came. But it would slaughter like half the people that showed up.
They hit it. They had a high temperature anyway, so 1 or 2 more degrees, it didn't matter to them.
It could have been, but I can tell you that poor bathroom that was behind the tent near the Blackwater area had seen some war itself. So,
I mean, you're years removed from this. So you did this thing in Blackwater. Do you think Blackwater helped or hurt? You think it helped stabilize, or do you think it hurt?
I think it was a cash grab. It didn't do either one. It absolutely didn't help. I don't think you could have screwed it up any more than what we were screwing it up anyway, right? Every time I was overseas, they talk about how much progress we're making. Oh, we're making so much progress over in these places. And then I'd go out the front gate and I'd look around and be like, no, it still looks like a dump. Yeah. It's pretty gross. So dude, I don't think that we helped by any stretch of the imagination. We did not play nice with the military, and we didn't really coordinate. We didn't anything. So it probably, from a strategic standpoint, it made it a lot more difficult for the military to do their operations. I remember we were driving right out of the north gate in the green zone, and we're taking a right, and there's a military convoy, and we're going to try to go around them. And the military convoy's got like a 240 Bravo in the back, and he just like aims it at our car. And I was like, oh, maybe we should tell these guys where we're going. Maybe that would help us. But
maybe did you guys?
No, we never played nice. We didn't want that. That was too much bureaucracy.
the fact that you're actually didn't pucker up at that point. I mean, like, okay, this is gonna be bad. Okay, so Fast forward, you went back to the Army.
Yeah.
Right.
Went back to the Army. They sent me to the exact same place that I was taking the evidence against Saddam Hussein. Like, it's JSS Justice. It's in northern Baghdad across from Sadr City. It's where Saddam Hussein got hanged, and they have all their high-value targets. And I was an intel weenie supporting SF, which I tell everybody, if you say you supported SF, it means you weren't SF, and you're trying to claim it. I'm not trying to claim it. I'm just letting you know that, like, we did the signal intelligence and the human stuff for SF. And I was making a third of what I was making in this. I remember this one day, there was a private military company came in. It was like Australian or something. And they came in and they were sitting down and they were eating. And I was like, these guys didn't even tell us they were coming. Like, well, what the hell's going on? And then it clicked in my brain. I was like, oh yeah, that was me. That was me like 4 years ago. So in the Army, I mean, the Army Officer Corps, because I was enlisted, the Army Officer Corps, it's kind of nice because people actually try to help you out. They say, hey, you know what, you could try to do this, you could try to do that. They're all trying to keep you in the military, but they actually try to help. If you were ever enlisted, all you hear is, oh, figure it out. I had to do it when I was an E2, an E3. So when I got into the Army, I started talking to some guys and I said I was getting out, and they started saying, go to graduate school. Like, you should be able to get into some of the best graduate schools in the nation. And I thought, there's no way. I can barely articulate what I'm thinking with crayons. But after the Army, I ended up going to Tufts University. I got a Master of International Business from there, and then got into corporate America. And, you know, there's been ups and downs, but for the most part, I don't regret anything that I've ever done. But yeah, I feel like I transitioned out of the military 3, 4, 5 times, and every time there's always something.
Okay, so I mean, you've lived a bunch of lives all at once. You got out of the Army when? When did you get out of the Army?
I got off active duty 2011, and then I was in the reserves for a couple of years while I was at grad school. So 2013 total.
Awesome. And what do you do now? What are you doing now?
I'm an IT weenie. I help big businesses connect to other big businesses, I mean, if you would have told me that's what I would be doing from Blackwater, I'd have been like, oh, I'm going to beat that guy up. But it's not a bad life.
I have 2 tech companies, 216 employees, 3 gun stores, 5 ranges, auto repair shop, event venue. Actually, I sold a bunch of that stuff. Actually, I sold a couple of those things. But I still have the gun stores and ranges. I do like to shoot a lot. And yeah, but tech is actually my number one passion. And I love to fight. So they say that there aren't a bunch of fighters in the IT world, right? I think that's a lie.
I do too. I've met a lot of former military guys that do really well in technology because they can focus it. You know, like some of those developers I sit next to, and I'm like, I just need you to get from point A to point F. And if I don't tell them what B, C, D, and E are, they can't do it. But you get those former military guys, and they're like, oh, okay, I see where you're trying to go. Let me try to get you there. You get there 80%. And then that just is so much better than having to like explain everything over and over and over to people.
Because you got to plan. You basically got to plan it out. You got to know where the path is, right? In the military. At least if you're doing anything where there's any risk. I mean,
yeah, well, and there's people there that are pointing you at that path, which is kind of nice. Now, some of them might be screaming at you, but at the end of the day, you see that there is the next place that you want to be.
All right, so tell me about this book. Tell me about your book. And you also got into some things related to watching some trafficking happening.
Oh man, so I released this book and I went on Facebook. Which is always a mistake. It's just a bunch of grumpy old boomers, right? Like anything they can bitch about, they're going to find. So I released this book, and the Blackwater guys are all boomers for the most part. I was really young. I was 23. So all these guys were older than me. And of course, they hate my book. But then I started seeing these jobs that were popping up, and they're legitimate jobs. They were like $500, $600, $700 a day. Now, usually you got to go overseas for that kind of money. And they were saying, I'm hiring at Eagle Pass and in Arizona. And they're like these fly-by-night PMCs. They're not triple canopy. They're not like MVM. They're just these small little ones. And I started thinking, what the hell are you doing, Oconus? And it turns out that what happens is that the Border Patrol can only retain people for 72 hours, specifically minors. They can only retain them for 72 hours, and then they have to hand them off to the next place. So I'm going to start at the beginning to kind of show you the supply chain. But a migrant comes in, a child, Border Patrol is not allowed to question them. They can't fingerprint them. They can't really do anything with them. And they say, hey, where are you going? Where's your sponsor at? The kid says, hey, my sponsor's in Kentucky. Within 72 hours, they have to hand that child off somewhere. Now, that somewhere were private military contractors. These private military contractors would put kids on buses. They would fly them in charter jets. There was a little bit of news about it where people would say, hey, where are you taking all these kids at a random airport? And the people would say, oh, I got no comment. I'm not going to tell you who I'm working with. That was a contract through the Department of Homeland Security. And once they get these kids, they would then move them into the United States. Now, this is all legal. This is kind of the crazy part. This is all legal and it's all set up, but they hand them off to an HHS contracted nonprofit. So when everybody was saying these nonprofits are trafficking kids, they weren't lying. They essentially say, hey, here's a bus full of kids. There's our paperwork. Go do what you have to do with them. So these kids would come in, get dropped off at an HHS facility under the Office of Refugee Resettlement. I know it gets obscure. I think that's the point. But they would hand them off, and then these nonprofits were supposed to find their sponsors. And how did they go and they found their sponsors? Well, here's the truth, is that they didn't. They literally would say, hey, who are we supposed to contact? And somebody would reach out and say, hey, I'm the sponsor of this person or that person or the next. It turned out that these sponsors were located supposedly at strip clubs, storage units, parking lots, and they were just handing these kids over without vetting any of their sponsors. So over the 4 years of the Biden administration, they lost over 350,000 migrant children into the United States. And RFK Jr. was talking about this. Tim Homan's been talking about this. But nobody's talking about the supply chain and how the U.S. government actually funded this.
350,000 kids. Morgan, how many people went to jail?
Zero. Yep. Absolutely none.
So you saw me talk about the fact that they can stick their penis in your butt if they want to, and there's not a thing you can do about it. You just talked about how crazy it is that you drop people off at a strip club, young children off at a strip club. But that's the reality. That's the reality that these kids had. I mean, you have 350,000 children that were brought into the country for the direct purpose of creating an enterprise, creating an organization that allowed for them to use nonprofits in order to traffic these kids. We don't even know if these kids survived. We don't even know if these kids weren't used for organ, harvesting and just killed. You just don't know.
Yeah, well, and the hard part is, so I think since the Trump administration has come in, they've cut off the supply chain, right? They closed off the border. That's reduced it by a ton.
Well, they've already got 350,000.
They're still missing.
Oh, right. They cut off. Okay, so it's like this. The bucket is full. Okay, go ahead. We need Trump in office so we can turn off the bucket. The bucket's way too full. We're having to cremate these kids and turn them into fertilizer. Can you do me a favor? Wait, make sure Trump wins this one. Just give us. We need a breather here for a minute. That's kind of how it feels.
No, I agree. And here's the thing: is that this happened. It started under Obama, and then it went through the first Trump, and then it got huge during Biden. And at least I will give them credit. DHS is trying to find these kids. They still have 85,000 outstanding minors, but I'll tell you where they are. You heard about that weed bust in California,
weed farm
2 weeks
California.
ago?
Yeah.
Eight unaccompanied minors that they found there. Sex trafficking. They know that these young migrants are being sold into sex trafficking, labor. They're being held by the cartel members to extort the family for more money because they got them into the United States. So it is going to take us. I mean, first off, it's a blight. It's an absolute black eye that we would do something like this. Second off, it's going to take years and years for us to even find these kids. And even then, I doubt that you're going to get even close to all of them.
You said they found or counted for all but 85,000. There's a report that came out that They've since said we're not going to release it of the number of children that were found dead. Do you know what that number was?
I have no idea.
Just over 9,000.
I just don't. Jesus.
It's funny. It's the lack of humanity. It's like we're on the outside, we're looking in, we're looking at all the things that are doing. We look at the supply chain. We look at the fact the United States is involved in this, and over and over again, they are involved in it, and yet no one said boo. No one said anything for 4 years. Nobody said. I mean, you had people that said something, and they're like, "That's nice."
Yeah, that was me.
Go back to work.
And they were like, take the tinfoil hat off, Morgan. This is a conspiracy. And I was like, I found the jobs. I found the contracts. I know exactly what is happening. It's finally getting some play. But here's what happened is when Blackwater started doing all of these government contracts in Iraq, politicians figured out private military contractors are the easy button. Hey, you need something done. You want to be able to keep it secret because it's under a corporation instead of it being through HHS or DHS. Push the easy button. That's a private military contractor. And now what you're hearing is private military contractors are pitching the Trump administration to send all these migrants back. I mean, how great a business model is that? You're a businessman. You bring them all in, and then they pay you for it. And then you say, don't worry, we'll help you get them all out.
And then we'll rape them for 4 years while we're doing it.
Yeah, I mean, some of the nonprofits, Southwest Keys was brought up on federal charges for sexually abusing minors. All those Catholic charities, we already know how the priests roll, but all those Catholic charities that were helping.
There's some good ones. There's some good Catholic churches.
Well, I'm sure there are, but there are some. Okay.
Well, there's some bad organizations under the guise of being Catholic. I mean, that are problems. I mean, it's Save the Children that was run by Jill Biden in the late 90s, early 2000s. You know, that organization was caught in Guatemala. What was it? 80,000 Guatemalan children gone that were bought. They had the head of Save the Children. This was uncovered and sent it to Abbott in Texas, sent it to Washington, D.C. I ended up giving an entire file and saying, okay, here are the people. Here's a video of them actually taking the two children from the mother. And one of the children was found with like multiple semen samples in walking naked, 4 years old, walking naked on the border of Texas. I mean, and nobody got in trouble for it. Like nothing, no problem.
So I'll give you another example of how crazy it got. So the One Border Patrol app, the Haitians were told to go onto the One Border Patrol app and apply for asylum. And then once they did that, private military contractors, Constellus, under its sub company called Triple Canopy, would take those individuals that were seeking asylum, fly them to Guantanamo Bay, where they would screen them. And then once they got done screening them, they would fly them into Ohio and hand them off to those same nonprofits under the HHS. So it's one thing to say, oh, it was happening at the border and these people were presenting themselves. It's a whole other thing to say we were actively going and helping grab these people, move them through Gitmo, and then put them into Ohio, where ostensibly they were eating dogs and they can't drive. So when people say, well, how do you get so many Haitians in one area? That's how. That's exactly how it happened.
So what's the alternative now? I mean, they're going to ship all these people back. They make victims of it. I mean, these are the people that have no voice, right? It's kind of like being an American and voting. Oh, I said it out loud. Shit.
They are. I mean, they are actively going to send all of these people back using the same private military contractors that help bring them all in. I mean, what a spectacular, that's like a self-licking ice cream cone.
That we pay for on both sides.
On both sides.
So how do you do? And I said this before, but I got all heated up before you came on because I was talking about debating the ridiculous and the obvious. You can obviously see this. This is an obvious problem. No one goes to jail. Square that for me. No one gets arrested.
That's what happens when you cover scumminess through policies and procedures. Nobody goes to jail. And that's what this is, right? The Border Patrol can't hold these kids for more than 72 hours. What do you do with them? And then they just start creating this stopgap between point A and point B because they want to bring all these migrants in, and then whatever happens to them, oh well. Like that's just, it's like you can't make an omelet without cracking a few eggs. But I mean, these are kids, man. Like this is what people are like. Oh, you used to be a PMC, and now all of a sudden you're speaking up against it. Yeah, you're right. I'm a hypocrite. I absolutely am. But the only side I'm on is the kid side. And if anybody doesn't see that, like, fuck yourself. I don't know if I could say that, but
you said it, and I'll take it. And because it should be the way it is, but we can't say that either because, we're not allowed to raise the temperature of what is acceptable or not acceptable. We allow it to happen to our community. And look, I don't care if they're from Guatemala or from Singapore. I don't care where they're from. There should be a basic understanding that you don't allow shitty people to do shitty things to other people. They should be held responsible for it. And how I grew up where, little street justice always did someone a little bit of good. And and I grew up in Washington, D.C., and obviously, it was just different. It was a different lifestyle that I lived. But maybe we should bring that back. Maybe people that do bad things should be held accountable. Maybe we should not be waiting for a rotted system of the same people that we're trying to stop for doing this. And I'm just talking out loud. So I'm not talking about doing anything crazy like that I think that they should face, because I do. I just think that we've got to get to a place where the people have a voice. We don't have a voice. We actually can't hold people accountable. But God forbid you park in the wrong place or go over a white line, they'll write you a ticket for $350. Right? God forbid any of that stuff happens. Then the law works. But beyond that, no, rape and murder children, that's fine. I mean, just that totally makes total sense.
I mean, the hardest part is on that Facebook group before I left, people would call other people out and say, why are you doing this contract? You're essentially trafficking kids. You're a scumbag. And here's the excuse. And this is the excuse that everybody always, it's right up there with, if we don't fight them over there, we're going to have to fight them over here. Bullshit. It is. If I didn't take this job, somebody else would. And maybe we should have enough people that say, let somebody else take that job, and then hopefully nobody actually takes it. I mean, I don't know. And look, my skewed morality of working for Blackwater is not, does not put me on a high horse by any stretch of the imagination. But at some point you have to grow up and you have to say, is what I'm doing holistically helping, or is it hurting? And I don't know that anybody could look themselves in the face after getting on a school bus with a bunch of migrant children for 7 to 24 hours and dropping them off at a random nonprofit and say, yeah, I just did good. I did good. That was a good thing.
No, I would agree with you. I would agree with you fully. So what's your book it uncovers some of that stuff, right? It kind of
the book only hits the Blackwater stuff. This whole trafficking thing just came about because I was kind of promoting the book. So I was just in the New York Post. I was quoted in that about this. I was on a podcast talking about this. The more people and places that we can get this out, hopefully somebody will stop and say, what the hell is going on here? And why do we do it? B, how do we fix it? And C, who the hell can we hold accountable for it? Now, I don't think any of those are going to happen, but maybe we can make enough noise to where somebody actually looks into it.
Do you know what accountability rage is?
I don't.
Back in the Civil War, you had accountability rage. So you would have all the men in the town would get together, and they would just enact justice, right? And it's how you had a equilibrium that happened with like judges. They'd have to do the right thing. You had police chiefs or marshals or sheriffs, and they all served the greater good because the carrot is that they got high esteem, high self-respect, had high respect in the community. They were there to do a public good. They got paid to do that. And then you had the other ones that the people in the community that said when they stopped doing those things, that a bunch of dads walked in and dragged the guy out of the thing and said, you're no longer the sheriff, pulled his badge off and said, get out of here. or worse. But we don't have that carrot anymore or stick anymore. We only have the carrot. We only have our politicians and our legislatures and they're given high esteem, even though we don't trust them. We don't trust the government. We don't trust what they have, what they do, what they've done to us. But we don't have a stick anymore because our stick has been taken away by dividing us and saying black, white, green, yellow, purple, Muslim, Christian. I mean, you name it, Catholic. I mean, and yet in the same breath, we look around, we're like, well, somebody's got to do something. And our hope is somebody does something. But our hope is no longer in being a man. It's no longer in 12, 15 guys getting together and saying, hey, I'll be your Huckleberry. Do it again. Now, give me your badge. All right, get out. We don't have that anymore. We have no accountability because they hide behind, well, if you don't like it, you can impeach them or you can do these things, but you can't because it's a cartel. Our government has become a cult, a cartel, a slave master's den.
I mean, it absolutely has. And I was going to say, the whole, if you don't like it, vote them out. Well, the problem with that is that you vote them out and then they go get a really cushy job at some think tank and they still have either influence or money. And then even if you vote them out, the person that comes in is going to do the same crap. Like I was saying, all this stuff happened through multiple presidencies and it's all the same players. And I mean, I can't stand Lindsey Graham the same way I can't stand Chuck Schumer.
Terrible. They're both the
same. They're just not that much different, except one has red on his lapel and the other one has blue. So I'm all about trying to figure out a way. Maybe you and I can start. This is my theory. I'm going to start something called the "Leave Me the Fuck Alone" party. So,
but the problem is that we also need the FAFO party to go along with it. So that when they don't leave you alone, they can just find out.
Yeah, no, and then think of that for foreign policy. Think of how great it would be. Like the leave me alone party is like, oh, hey, you guys over in Ukraine are fighting the Russians. Yeah, we're going to leave you alone. And you guys leave us alone. And then we can let people fight their own wars.
Yeah.
And we get I feel like we as politicians are so set on trying to force our morality on other people that we can't see past the fact that it's not helping anybody. The Democrats have become the party of war. When did that start? They used to put flowers in gun barrels, right? And now all of a sudden they're like, let's give them more money so they can keep killing the Russians.
Yeah, but they are kind of simpy, and they literally are a bunch of weak people. I mean, you could like flick, and they would like fall over. So they favor it as long as they're not in it.
I mean that's fair. Until it becomes politically advantageous to not favor it. I mean, to your point, I think religion has been replaced with party affiliation in the United States. And when you start worshiping the people and the party and the policies, you really kind of, as a society, I think we're going to have a hell of a reckoning coming up.
Well, I think the reckoning is going to be in, I speak of the obvious, and that obvious for me is that, I want accountability. I want consequences. And frankly, I don't want to live in a world where they can rape women and children and get away with it. I don't want to live in a world where they can do what they've done and victimize our communities and then treat us like slaves and say, oh, by the way, you can't own a gun. If you walk across the street the wrong way, I'm going to write you a ticket that you have to pay now to file your taxes, that you give us more money. We're already paying 56 cents on every dollar. What do I want to give them more money for? Right. And it doesn't make sense. Like the whole system in the United States and most of the world is run by retards. And they're strong retards only because we haven't decided that we're strong enough that we're going to punch these guys in the face. I mean, they're not going to leave us alone. So what's next? I actually think we need to serve a party of, right, that we're the enforcers. We're going to come in and kick you out, right? You did something wrong. Okay, we're going to have a little. Okay, get out. Well, I don't want to get out. Okay, we're going to drag you outside. And I hate to put it to that place, but you have kids. I mean, I want my kids to understand that they can do something about it. And right now we're teaching them that there's nothing you can do about it. Just Go along with it. You're a slave. And with technology, that grip is going to get more and more severe.
Yeah, and the hard part is that, you know, when you take a step back at it, in the military, we always said, well, my taxes go to pay my own paycheck, right? Because you give it to the federal government, they end up giving it back to you for being in the military. When you start realizing that your taxes, your money is going to just the scummy stuff that is happening with private military contractors, with nonprofits. I mean, I think if you were ever going to make a change, you have to frame everything as every dollar that you put into this apparatus, state, federal, county, whatever it is going to X. And show people, I mean, Doge did it, to their credit, to a certain extent. Doge was able to do this. But it needs to happen at a mass scale because these contracts aren't drying up, right? Like people are getting paid to do stuff, and they're hiding it under being a private corporation, so they don't have to tell you what you're doing, but it's still your money, and that's what's driving me up the wall.
Well, you got to send me your book. I'd love to read it. It sounds like we get in trouble if we live as neighbors. People would FAFO real quick. You know, all my neighbors feel the same way in my neighborhood, and frankly, we got to get to the point where we stop debating the ridiculous and just do. I feel like we're on the cusp of someone has to put together an organization that takes care of this. There has to be some way to stop it, like walking into a nonprofit, just grabbing all their shit and being like, "Get out."
I mean, the IRS is complicit in creating that nonprofit status. This is the problem: is that there's not one throat to choke, as you say. There's not one person in charge. When you're talking about trafficking kids, you have the IRS that made the nonprofit. You have the nonprofit itself. Then you have HHS, DHS, Office of Refugee. Like it gets so obscure, and there's so many almost roots coming out of this thing that even if you chop off one root, the tree is still going to grow.
Well, I mean, what you're basically saying is that we're prolonging the inevitable. We just might as well just shut it all down.
I'm saying we'll live next to each other. We'll take over the HOA. We'll start there. And then once we take that over, then we'll go for that county government and then state. And then
if you don't get rid of election machines and mail-in ballots, you have no chance of winning anything. It literally I'm a system architect, right? So
okay.
I can tell you right now, I was the guy that got sued first by this Eric Coomer guy because he stole elections, right? He said, "Don't worry about it, Trump's not going to win." I made sure of it. I was on that call. So that led me to be, I always believe that God puts you into things for a reason. And then that led me to say, okay, can Dominion steal elections? And then and after doing that and going through if you've ever been, you're on the IT side, so you read documentums, you go through system logs, files, how-to manuals, you go through everything, and then you just build a model, usually done on a whiteboard. Once you got the model on the whiteboard, you know where all the system failures are and whether or not they're on purpose or not. Super easy. That's why I can't imagine that there's one expert that can tell me that the election systems are not fraudulent and designed to be fraudulent, because I did it with a manual. Well, actually, I did it with like 6 manuals from different states, but I turned it on its side, smushed it together, and said, okay, here's how they steal the elections. It was that fast. It took me less than 2 weeks. Right?
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe it's the same as what we're complaining about with the government, right? You have a database and people think, oh, that's just where you put data, but you have all these systems that are around or wrapping the database that cause it to act in a certain manner. So when you go to Netflix, they authenticate you. It goes into a database and it says, "Hey, I want to watch Happy Gilmore 2." That's a systematic wrapper around a database to say, "Go find this for this person at that time."
Yeah, and they hash it against some sort of, description link that has nothing to do with the title, and it sits in some obscure database on some other, not Synology, but something like that, something that has the ability to gather that data. But my point is that you can't look at where we're at as a country and say we're intelligent and let such stupid people tell us that what we see is not what we see. I mean, like you have companies that are stealing children. Okay, tell me what else it isn't. If it's not that, what is it? And they're like, well, you just don't understand how pushing babies around the United States works. No, I don't. Show me. Okay, you're trafficking children.
Yeah, but how many times as an IT guy have you heard this? I just don't understand IT. Can you? And I don't want to really figure it out. And that's the same thing with the federal government, right? Like people say, oh, well, I don't really understand how they're getting all these migrants in here. And then somebody comes like me and says, this is how they're doing it. And they say, I still don't get it. Like there is a willful horse blinder that people are putting on themselves at this point.
Yeah. Well, bro, thanks for joining us. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry that you got to hear me rant a little bit at the beginning, but you did some ranting too. So it all worked out.
It all evens out. We'll just paper, rock, scissor for the HOA head.
All right. Make sure that, are you doing a book tour or no? What are you doing with your book tour?
No, I'm not doing a tour. I'm just kind of doing it online, podcasts. I'll fly out though if you have a spare room.
Where are you at? What state are you in?
I'm in Arizona.
Oh, it's not that far. I'm in Colorado or Texas. I have San Antonio, and I have a spare room. You're welcome to. In Texas, we can go see my friend Kyle Seraphin. Have you met him yet?
No.
He's the FBI whistleblower that has zero patience. I love it. But super good guy, but gave it all to go after and help the American people, and he's been crapped on by Kash Patel and those guys. Believe it or not. So it is what it is. Yeah, so absolutely. We have we should definitely talk after this. I need your book. So I'll have Lynn reach out to you and make sure that I can get a copy. I'll just buy it from you directly.
Absolutely. Sounds great, man. Thank you so much for having me on.
All right. Thanks, brother. We'll talk soon.
Take care.
All right. Spirit animal. He's one of my spirit animals. Yeah, he definitely gets it in a way that I think is it makes it difficult because there's so many people that do get it, and yet there's so many people that walk around saying, oh, well, that can't be it. That can't be the way it is. That is the way it is. And so you find yourself talking to people who they can see it. But see, the problem is once you see something, you can't unsee it. Then you have a decision to make. Are you going to be a coward and just ignore it? Or are you going to speak up and say something because you see something? More often than not, we don't say anything. More often than not, when we do say something, they get to wrap us up in dog whistles. And you find yourself in the dog whistles trying to figure out how to get to the bottom of it. That's the reality. Oh, it was a great guest. I see you guys talking over there in the thing. I just brought it back up. Let's see what we got. We're going to learn about the bust the balls of an AI bot. Okay, Gammy. Good to see you back. She was not doing so well, by the way. Gammy's feeling a lot better. Gammy likes to chop off offending parts, shove down said offender's throat. Done. Okay, pour bleach on the roots. I agree with you there. After show with Joe always rocks. Well, I hope so. So I'm gonna challenge you guys to do a couple things for me. One, we did a show and reached like 50,000 people. And then we did another show and reached 100,000 people, and that was on Friday. And then on Monday we came back and it was 3,000 people. I kid you not. So then 3,000 people to 5,000 people the next day. And then it went to 35,000 people that day that we reached on just Rumble. 35,000, 38,000, 39,000. Next Monday went back down to 3,000. Then the next day it went to 3,000 and went to 3,000. Then we found ourselves literally being cut off at Rumble. I had a conversation with Chris over Rumble. Chris is like, yeah, we don't have anything. And I said, well, we're using Bitly to send people these emails and these text messages to bring them to Rumble. And he goes, yeah, so Joe, I found myself doing IT. Obviously, he's the CEO of the company. And he tells me to go use a third party to do analytics so that I can look at the third party. And that's when I knew that it was all a lie. That the numbers and the suppression is a real thing. We have 48,000 people on Rumble that follow us. And we did really, really well. It's okay, we're going to come out and do really, really well. And then they cut it off. and they cut off the money that you made per episode. And so the same thing started to apply downstream. The only places that it didn't are places like Pilled, who doesn't, we haven't spent enough time talking about Pilled.net and some of the other places like on our website. So we get a ton of traffic on our website. People use that as a place that they want to go. But I feel like I built this entire platform for frank speech, so shouldn't I put that into play? So I'm just exploring how we're going to do this to where I have one place that you can go, and it's not going to be Rumble. I don't think it's not going to be Rumble. Rumble hasn't proven that they pick their horses, and they pick who gets to be seen. It's actually worse than YouTube because they can actually choose it individually. So they have a list that it's like a cool kids club. So it's not a matter of how people engage or any of that stuff. It's who they choose to put you on page one. And yeah, so look for me to make some pretty significant changes here shortly, because we'll be making even more changes on the show. Somebody asked if I'm going to be doing my show with others, and the answer is no. I'm going to do the show myself, and I'm going to get back to kind of my roots of just doing what I did before when I went crazy before Morgan came on the show. What else? That's it. That's all I got. First little bit took us a little while to get going. If you're on, I'm going to challenge you to do something for me, and that is share. Pick 2 socials and hit the share button. Just a little bit of experiment on this. Share the video. Share what we have on X. I can't explain to you what is happening. I do know that both the left and the right don't like my voice. And they want me to not like my own voice. But I kind of like talking to you guys, so I'm going to continue to do it. But that's going to lead me down the path of making sure I make some significant changes to how we do the show. I may start flying guests in, having you guys come on, getting back to some of the things that I did a couple of years ago. And having fun, getting back to having fun on the show. So we'll be doing that as well. Yeah, so let's pray it out, shall we? Father God, thank you for our guests. Please forgive me, Father, for cursing. I just got a little bit. It's hard not to get angry. It's hard not to be full of passion and care about people that I've never even met. Because the consequences of evil are far-reaching. Father, we are truly grateful for the blessings that you give upon us and the path that you put in our lives and the people you put in our lives. We're grateful for the last 5 years, however difficult that it's been, and it has been difficult. We're grateful, Father, for the relationships you're going to give us into the future and even the trials and tribulations that we will go through. And we are grateful, Father, that we can see what is in front of us and that we chose not to ignore it or to reject it and act like it's not even there. We can see it. We can see the evil that has taken over our country and our community. Father, I ask you to give us the strength that we can fight against it. I ask you to I beg of you, Father, that you can help us to restore order and that you give our leaders the ability to stand up for us, even if it's supernatural and they don't want to do it, but they have to. Father, I ask you to help us get rid of machines and mail-in ballots, to get to a place where we can have transparency in the voice of your people. We, for so long, Father, have stood on the sidelines. And I feel like it's one of those moments, the moment where we have to do something. That saying something is just not enough. So we ask for the path forward, and we ask you to put us on it and to have us all be able to serve our part. I ask these things humbly in Jesus' name. Amen. So 385,000 children. Go on. 350,000, sorry. It's a lot, right? We keep having guests on that talk about all the corruption that we have, and we have tolerated it. I think it's time we stop tolerating it. So, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and more. Go ahead and share us. Give us a 5-star review. Hit the little thumbs up button on your way out, and help make this country great by not losing your voice. Keep speaking truth. Galatians 4:16, am I the enemy because I tell you the truth? You are the devil's enemy. But keep speaking truth. I'll see you guys on Monday. Have a great weekend. Kiss your family. And, I hope to see you guys again on Monday. Take care.